Hello, everyone. Welcome to this interactive talk with Ani Choying Drolma. Thank you, Anila, for joining us at Sisters in Spirit. Before I introduce Anila, who actually doesn't really need an introduction, I would like to just say a few words about Sisters in Spirit. Firstly, I'm Tejal, and I want to welcome all of you on behalf of SIS, extending a very warm welcome to our friends who are joining us from so many different parts of the world. Thank you for taking this valuable time on a Sunday for this talk on empathic concern and engaged compassion. So basically, I set up Sisters in Spirit in November 2020. It's an independent Dharma project which is very young, only 4 months old. And Nivita, who is on the screen here as Sis admin, is been very kind and helping on so many aspects of this project, which makes it possible for us to offer a teaching like today's. So also thanking Nivita. She will be, the chat box is open, so you can send your questions throughout the talk, and Nivita will be curating them. And at the end, you will have the opportunity, not everyone, but some of you, to ask these questions directly to Anila. So the idea was, I came across Buddhist teachings 5 years ago, and I was amazed that I've grown up in India. I'm Indian, but there's so little I knew about these precious teachings of the Buddha Dharma. And I really feel that these teachings are timeless, though they are 2,600 years old. They're extremely relevant to us now today, especially in a world which is increasingly materialistic. There is so much war and greed and selfishness. So in the face of that, these teachings are a precious source of wisdom and generating infinite love and compassion, which is all actually possible, and it is shown to us through these teachings as a living tradition embodied by amazing, amazing beings who are amongst us. So we were interested especially to bring these Buddhist teachings to very modern and contemporary people like myself, and especially to women and people who identify even as transgender or intersex. And we wanted to see how these non-dual Buddhist teachings intersect with modern science, with feminism, with queer theory, disability studies, as well as ecological sustainability. So we offer to this end different workshops and practice and study groups and talks, interviews, teachings. So I'm so pleased to welcome Ani Choying Drolma today, who's joining us from Nepal, if I'm right. And it's really true that Anila does not need an introduction. She is so well known and extremely well known, of course, for her contribution to the world of music and to spiritual and devotional music. But I don't know if she's as well known for her great bodhisattva activities of bringing so much benefit to people through education, through projects which are involved in health, and these are all very large-scale projects. So I will actually somehow weave Anila's great bio and activities as I ask her a few questions. So I don't want to waste our precious time. I want to jump in right away into asking Anila a few questions. And of course, the more participants who can have their videos on, if your bandwidth allows that, I'm sure it's very good for Anila as a speaker to have the opportunity to see more of you. So Anila, I would like to start I was so, when I read your biography, Freedom Through Singing, I was so moved and touched because it was, I was really dying to hear more stories of women practitioners and about their lives and how they came to the Dharma. But you in particular had a very difficult childhood. So instead of me speaking about it, please could you share with our audience a little bit about your childhood? Thank you.
First of all, namaste to everyone. I hope you are all keeping yourself safe and healthy in the midst of the fear of this COVID-19 thing. Is quite kind of, I thought it was like little slowly vanishing, but it seems to come back again in a harsh way, actually. Um, but thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this group. Um, I'm really glad that you enjoyed reading my book. The difficulty during my childhood, when I look back today, uh, it is no longer the subject to be sad about, actually. In fact, in the contrary, actually, I'm amazed and um, I don't know how to put it, but oh, that was supposed to happen, and whatever happened, it happened for good, kind of. That's the spirit now. That's the attitude that I have right now when I look back. But of course, during those days when I was actually living that life, which was a bit of physically and emotionally, it was very difficult to adjust with because it was not so comfortable. And I think that was very human nature to, in order, I mean, in order to react in such manner, thinking that this was something bad that is happening and I don't like it and I don't want it, and I wish I can be somewhere where I don't have to go through this. This was a very normal human behavior, even though I was a kid. So I really did not wanted that violent environment to live in. So the beauty of human intelligence and human desires is such that when you realize that you don't want something that is, making you unhappy, you immediately seem to develop the desire to look for an alternative, how I can escape, or I can free myself from this situation. And following the same procedure of how human uh, behavior functions. So I started to look for an alternative thing, and with, I mean, my mother's help, I realized that becoming a nun would be the best answer to my 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 prayer, and the domestic violence is such that, which is actually even today, I mean, it's quite a common daily practices in many of the households, and not only limited into the uneducated, poor communities. In fact, some of the highly educated and well-off families also go through such experiences of domestic violence, where sadly sometimes some of our fellow sisters, try to hide it. Some of them really takes it in a very unhealthy manner, and very rare of them actually, in the name of honor of the family, or the as it is might become a shame to the family, they try to keep it very quiet about it. But on the other hand, some of these middle class or the poorer community, they seem to definitely take the liberty to talk about it, and shout about it and loudly make their voice. Yeah. So as I also really was not happy with such a domestic violent environment, and somehow that environment, that experiences, the whole thing was kind of developing a deep sense of fear within me, and deep sense of anger within me, and deep sense of hatred that was taking place in my heart, which was the worst part of it. And I became very unhappy, and my behavior started to exhibit that unhappy spirit inside. and started to become a little violent in the school, where I ended up, fighting with the boys there, because at home I can't show that anger and aggression to anyone at home, because my father he's too big and too powerful and too strong from to show that, and my younger brothers, they're too small. And at school, then you come across young boys who are about your age and so on. So I always, somewhere I can even say that I enjoyed exhibiting that aggression in a manner to show that, look, I'm strong. So somewhere deep inside, you do realize that that this whole thing is happening because you, as being a woman or girl, and you're supposed to be weak, and that sense, that concept was not a acceptable thing at all for me, even though I was so young at that age. So I always try to um, oppose that, or show my rebellious attitude towards it. And that started to develop this very aggressive behavior in me, and made me unhappy, and made my friends around me unhappy. And slowly, I think my parents, they also realized that slowly. Yeah, but then the best part of it is like that it developed this desire to be free from that environment. And in order to free myself, I was looking for ways. And one auspicious day, when I realized that if I become a nun, I don't need to go through the life that my mother was going through, which was very helpless and very painful and very suffocating. Yeah, so then I never thought twice at all. Once I realized I can become a nun, so I became a nun. I received the refuge of such a great master that really blessed my life and healed me. All the wounds that I had in my heart, no, consciously or unconsciously, subconsciously, it seems to be in that back of my mind, which was very much exhibited in my behaviors, and being very defensive, very insecure, and very aggressive, and very bitter. I was, even after I entered the monastery. And so, but then I think my omniscient Guruji was so compassionate to the point that he handled with so much care and so much kindness, that slowly healed me without even realizing that I was being healed, actually. So whatever little bit of a goodness that today in the world people seem to enjoy about me, uh, in however way manner, I mean, however way, in as in through my music, or either through my philanthropic work, or as my through my friendship, or however you put it, I think these are all the blessing of my Guruji that is reflecting, his love, his kindness, that is being reflected through it. I still, it's a long way, actually. I'm I'm slowly learning to crawl, so it's a long way. I still need to uh, go a long way. I'm in the process of correcting my karma.
Anila, thank you so much. I just want to share that for those of you who may not have read Anila's biography, I, of course, really heartily encourage you to read it. But Anila, your father was extremely violent, extremely violent. I mean, I remember reading how you were, thrown against the wall, and you went through such extreme pain that at one point you even somehow began to completely disassociate yourself, from the physical body. But as you say that, while there was this ball of anger and hatred and aggression brewing in you, you also had the amazing karma that at the tender age of 13, you met Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche. I mean, you know, one of the greatest living teachers of the last century. And not only you met him at 13 and you ordained with him, but I think you served him for the next 25 years until his parinirvana in 1996. You were at Nagi Gompa and Rinpoche was living there. And I'm just one, I mean, of course, you've already said how his love and care healed you, but could you speak a little bit more about that time period with Rinpoche? And are there any remarkable experiences of being with him that are deeply etched in your heart and mind, which are just, you know, those living examples of just being with such a great being and that journey of healing with his help and kindness?
There was never like an extraordinary way of treating me by my teacher that I can explain to you. It was very normal, but yet very subtle and very simple, yet the best, of course, best energy, the best ingredient that I today can pinpoint that he used to heal me is his very unconditional loving kindness and compassion. How he understood how vulnerable I was and how injured I was. I think, and at this age today, now I can explain it in the right sentence or with the right word, I guess. But those days, I never realized that I was being healed and I was being really taken care with so much care. But somehow it was like very normal for me, you know, like. But yet, yes, slowly I was starting to feel very comfortable and very safe, and the constant fear that I used to be under when I was at home of you know, like, when will my dad come from back of my my be behind me and, you know, grab my hair, or when will he just throw something on me, or that constant fear was slowly gone. And I was able to develop or I gained that confidence of being in a very safe environment, that for the first time I realized that it is okay for me to play, jump around, be naughty, because I'm a kid. And it was the first time that I guess, as far as I can remember very clearly, I received that, I developed that sense of being a kid, and it's okay to be naughty, and it's okay to be playing around. It is not really obligation for me to all the time do my dishes and do laundry and carry my brothers on my back, and there I realized, oh, being beaten up is not normal, you know. At home, being beaten up was part of life, you know, like, it, somewhere down the line it was very much considered normal, you know, even though I did not enjoy it. And but then at the nunnery, in my teacher's refuge, I realized what was right. And I was so much in the protection of, you know, his kindness. So I started to relax, you know, I started to feel relaxed, I started to feel very comfortable, I started to feel fearless, you know. And that's, I guess, how I was being slowly healed, you know. And the strength of my anger, my frustration, was in the process of decreasing, though not it was not an overnight transformation, definitely not. I had the blessing to spend time with him for about almost 13 years of my life, not 25. I was first there at the age of 13, and when I reached 25, 26. So that's when my teacher passed away. So not only my teacher himself and my Guru Ama, my teacher's wife, as well as my senior fellow sisters around me, many of them were so kind. Some of them were a little like hard to digest at that time. Those days, I when I think today at this point of my life now, when I look back, I don't blame them at all. It was all my fault, to be honest, very honestly. And the nasty nun that I have mentioned in my story, um, in 2011, 12, I think, I suddenly, when I woke up in the morning one day, I realized, like, oh my God, it was all my fault. I was so pampered by my teacher and my teacher's wife, my Guru Amma, that I started I got carried away with arrogance, like some kids, they do, right? And I did a little introspection of how I behaved those days, and how I told my story to people about how I felt those days, specifically with some of my fellow sisters' behavior, where I was trying to feel like I was treated not right, kind of feeling was there. But later I realized, oh my God, I did something really bad, which was to think that they treated me bad. In fact, it was me who behaved not who behaved disrespectfully, and really got carried away by the pampering of my teacher, his kindness, his love, and my Guru Amma's love, So, and I started behaving a naughty kid, and I think I disrespected some of the senior nuns, and it was a very natural reciprocation from the senior nuns, how they were upset with me and they were not happy with me, which was obvious. So in 2011 or 12, I think one day when I really developed that realization, I felt so ashamed of myself, and then I also realized that how precious it is to have them in my life still. And we are from the same Guruji and same Guru Amma's blessing. We are like a family, and the bonding that we share is the most precious bonding that we have, because of our teacher, same teacher. And they being the senior, I was so much in the wrong way of behavior towards them, so that I felt so ashamed, and I said, okay, maybe it's not too late. I must correct my karma. So that day I looked for something beautiful as a gift or an offering to my senior, the so-called nasty nun in my book. I went with the kata, and I bowed down to her. I offered the kata and said, Ani, please forgive me. All the wrong behaviors that yeah. So, and she was so kind, and she forgave me, and I felt so light that day, and how blessed I am, really. And that's my actual real achievement in my life, to be honest. I'm sorry, I'm becoming a little emotional.
Anila, it's really beautiful how you are sharing about this. I know that when I first came across the idea, the concept of bodhicitta, and this idea that you can actually generate love, infinite love, even for your enemy, even for that difficult person, who may have abused you, who may have done very violent things to you, this oppressor figure. And I mean, we can experience the knots inside, how, it's like, no, 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 not love towards this one because they are so mean and rude. So I can really, empathize when you say that the real achievement is when we are able to go to the so-called nasty nun and
Yeah, I
actually,
think at the end of the day, when the best part of we being able to try, I mean, to make that attempt to follow the path of Buddha, and to live his teachings, however way possible, but of course, which is not so easy at times, but still we are so blessed that we are trying we are making our effort, and we realize that how much it makes sense in our life theoretically, not only, I mean, of course, the beginning it's just more theoretically, and then wherever possible, where we try to apply these methods and the teachings in our life in order to deal with our confusions and frustrations in life. But you know being on the path of practicing Buddha's teaching is, what I realize, it's not about becoming so glorified or exhibiting some aura, colorful auras through your body and so on. I think the best part is that when you realize where did I go wrong, what was it, that behavior that I did wrong, and then maybe without delay, having the courage to go and ask for the forgiveness, and then find ways how I can correct that mistakes, and develop a better way of approach to everyone that I sometimes felt that these people were not so good to me. Having said that, also it goes to my precious my late precious father. Yes, there was a time where I used to really feel so much anger and so much hatred towards him. Even I doubted if he was really my father or not. But today I realize that um, he didn't behave on all those violent behavior out of hatred towards me. It was just that he was so helplessly in the grip of his own this sickness that really he had no control over, and he was suffering himself. And not only me and my mother, but he himself was the victim of that disease. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you put it, those days I was not able to understand him in that from that perspective. My mother wasn't able to understand him from that perspective, so he could not get proper help. But later on, with the help of my teacher, I was able to develop that sense of understanding towards him, and I made the effort to understand what he went through, and where he is, and how he is, and being able to really develop that courage and the love towards him, and start making a little bit of the effort to make him feel that I care about him. I appreciate what he has done, and I'm sorry that he is going through such pain and difficulty. And when I started to exhibit that in my behavior, I think he also started to feel comfortable. And that's how slowly me and my father, we fell in love with each other again. And yeah, later on, my relationship with my father was so beautiful. And in fact, the change was such that the transformation, or the transformation was such that I became his mother and he became my child. So today I really miss him as my baby. Yeah.
And you took great care of him, Anila, towards the end of his life. You
I
really,
I feel so blessed that I could spend that time and I could make that effort to care for him however possible way I could. Yeah. So I really feel blessed.
thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anila, could you speak a little bit more about the role of music and singing in the spiritual path?
um, well, in the monastery, when we do our ritual ceremonies, there are certain visualizational process, either by visualizing something in your vision, or or combining your mind and its process through the sound of the chanting or the mantra itself, combine uniting them together. These are all practice of your training your mind in different method. So I was trained by my teacher to do that, and then without knowing that I was under the training, actually, to be honest, it, I learned them in a very fun manner. My teacher was so much fun, and then he made me sing and he encouraged me, and oh, you can sing so well, come on, you sing more, and kind of thing. So I was very excited, and I was very quick in picking up different melodies, and I think genetically also I was blessed enough to have the ability to sing more melodiously, and thanks to my parents. And then of course I was very much encouraged and inspired by my teacher, my guruji and my guru ama. So yeah, that's how I developed it. But never really had the idea that someday it will turn out to be becoming a very professional career, so-called career. As today, you all know me as the singing Ani. Yeah, so I mean, it was very natural. I used to love and have so much fun singing and dancing. Singing and dancing was something that always made me so happy, so excited. Even in the nunnery in Nagigompa, I used to really, really behave so much outrageously funny. I would be always ready to dance. I would be always so ready to sing. I would drag other nuns to sing and dance along with me. I used to, uh, put makeup on myself and put on some other dresses in order to find ways to fool my teacher and my grandma, my teacher's wife, and then they would laugh and laugh and laugh. So I used to be an entertainer actually in Nagigompa. So and today, yeah. So today people think that I'm a good singer. I don't know so much on that, but I enjoy singing.
And Anila, I mean, you are very unconventional for a Tibetan Buddhist nun in every sense of the word, not only because of some of the things you just mentioned, but I also remember reading that, you had this open top Jeep and you were driving your Jeep all around Kathmandu Valley. And I was just thinking, this is exactly the kind of image which is such a no. But it's also so, like some of us are so longing to see the image that yes, there can be a nun and she can also drive a jeep and she can also sing and she can also dance, and it's all okay. It's not just okay, it's great. So, you have a very unconventional path. How did you chart this from within such a, patriarchal, perhaps even orthodox space that you come from? I mean, I know your Guruji and your Guru Amma, I mean, they are amazingly very open minded people, but still this coming into yourself, this journey of allowing yourself to be exactly who you are without any compromise. Please share.
well, I really totally agree with you. I'm the most controversial image that you can ever find in our conservative society. As I always explain to people, I'm a very rebellious character. You know, I'm not someone who will easily just close eyes and follow. You know, I'll I'll look for logic. I'll ask for the reason. If somebody tells you that you should be shy and you should behave in such a very shy and quiet manner, I would say, why do I have to do that? And if somebody's able to convince me for the reason behind it and how it is meaningful, then with a deep joy I will follow it. But if someone just simply tells me to be shy and limited and behave in a manner that mm, I'm weak, or I don't know anything, or I'm vulnerable, I will just behave the opposite. Because deep in my heart, I was very clear always, even at my house, I always felt that I can do anything. I'm capable of doing anything. I'm capable of helping myself. I'm at home. I'm capable of helping my mother by helping her to do cooking, by helping her to take care of my brothers, by helping her to doing all the laundries and dishwashing and cooking, cleaning up the house. Where do I stand as something that doesn't know anything to do, or someone as a weak or vulnerable? You know, so I never was happy to accept that perception from anyone. So on the contrary, if I ever find anyone, treating me in that manner or that kind of perception, I end up behaving in the opposite way to tell them, look, I am who I am. Even though I'm a woman, I can be strong. I am strong, and I can do that. And for that, driving was one of the way that I exhibited that I can drive. If a monk can drive, I can drive too. And I always enjoyed the symbolic sense of control having in my hand of the steering wheel wherever I want to, you know, move towards. So that sense of confidence and the freedom that I felt, and I lived it. I tried to live by it instead of just talking and arguing about it. So I think that driving was one of the symbolic behavior that I engaged myself into in order to tell the society or whoever was with such perception, about we as women or girls, that they are weak, they are incapable, they are less intelligent. So it was the answer to them, you know. So I wasn't into like really directly fighting with them or arguing with them, but I wanted to live it, what I believed in. So most of the behavior, very outrageous behavior that people think of being so controversial, uh, is these are all the answers that I try to give to the society. Look, where did I go wrong? Singing is something that I enjoy doing, but I'm not singing tragic love songs. I'm singing all these spiritual meditative songs, which is within my principle, my so-called within my vow. I'm not engaging myself into such a worldly activity of being carried away in a very what do you call it, lavishy, modern, hi-fi. I don't know how to put it. I don't have the right term to express that. But so I was all singing spiritual meditative hymns, melodious songs to express my understanding of Dharma itself. And with the aspiration, and then the most important thing is that my aspiration was clear. I want to encourage other women. I wanted to encourage other fellow sisters to realize that, look, our happiness is within our hand. It's not something that somebody else should give it to us. We have it. And don't believe in others who says that, oh, you are not capable of being happy. That is so wrong. You're not capable of taking good care of yourself. If somebody says that, don't believe that. Look at me, I can do it. Look, I'm doing it. That was actually the answer that I was living it. And I have no regret towards it. And but of course, as the time passed by, as I got more and more matured slowly, I was able to develop more and more calmness, a calmness deep within myself, and a sense of humility which was taking part in my life, and that gave me the deepest joy in whatever I did. And today, when I talk about the freedom and then the realization of oneself in being able to not only taking care of oneself, but being able to be there for others, to take care of them. And I do that with the deepest joy, and I do that with the deepest, most humble manner that I can.
Anila, that's what's really amazing, that in your trajectory, we see that, you went from a lot of conflict to a deep sense of calmness. And then subsequently to empower women and to empower people in the world in general. You set up a lot of projects. You set up the Aryatara School for young women. You set up the kidney dialysis centers, the first ones in Nepal. I know your mother herself went through a lot of problems. You set up just so many things. You set up water supply to villages, and I really feel, that, I mean, even though your story has all this conflict, but when we experience you and we experience your music, and I'm sure those who have had the great fortune of meeting you personally, there's a deep sense of harmony from which you are working on quite a large scale. And I just, were there some very great difficulties that you faced when you were setting up these projects? Some challenges which really helped you to become even calmer? And is there any particular aspect of the Buddha's teachings that really helped you, aspect or practice, in this journey of transformation?
Well, challenges are definitely there. Even today, I struggle with many challenges, not only just as external thing, but my own internal thing as well. I'm still struggling within myself, which is a very continuous process. It is there until I think until I achieve enlightenment. This will be still the process, the procedure that I'll go through. But then being able to go through that procedure of challenges and facing them and tackling with them and adjusting with them, or transforming them in a manner which I perceive them in the right way, I should say. Any experiences that you don't expect, of course, it is coming to you as a suffering, like it makes you uncomfortable, it makes you feel disappointed, it makes you feel sad and angry. But then the moment when I feel that discomfort, disappointment, and sorrow, I immediately think of the teaching of our teacher, and how it all depends on how we learn to perceive them in our life. It's all about the perception, how you perceive them. So then I try to perceive them from a different aspect, from a different direction or different perception, and that makes me feel comfortable. And I will be able to have the patience. I will be able to develop that patience to or find a more skillful manner to tackle with that, and so that I don't cause much damages to neither to myself or nor to others. I will try to find more skillful way of dealing with it. Yes, at times there are moments when you lose your temper, you lose your patience, and it's there definitely. But then at the end of the day, when you are all alone at home in your bedroom and you reflect on that, what happened today and how I dealt with it, and then sometime I end up feeling very embarrassed about how I lost my temper and patience, and sometimes it makes me feel like, oh wow, I did okay, you know you know okay, you did well, so maybe I can think of a better way to deal with it. So that's how I try to continuous struggle in correcting my way of dealing and my way of perceiving, and my way of learning things. It's a continuous process. It's not like something that I'm enlightened, I know everything. Different occasion, different situation, different experiences, it makes you go through different emotions. So it's there still. And the biggest part of the struggle that I experience in every day of my life, whether that is within me or in others, a lot of the time is the hypocrisy that we experience. That is something that I really am struggling. The social norms that makes you really sometimes, the obligation from your social norms are such a strong pressure on you to really behave in a very hypocritic way, and I really wish to be free from that. Up to a certain extent, yes, I have been able to really live by it, but still I am under it. I hope it makes sense. I hope
Yeah,
I sound like I'm talking nonsense.
no, no, not at all. Thank you so much, Anila. Really, I'm so curious. I really wanted. I don't know if it's so relevant, but I also wanted to know how, this view of emptiness, how that affects you in the work you do, in the being that you are, in your practice. This view of emptiness and bodhicitta. I mean, that would be my last question before we open to the floor. And it's an intimate gathering. We are 37 people, so yeah.
I'm not very highly learned person or a very highly academic person, but from my own experiences and from my own understanding capacity, with the blessing of my teacher, it's such that you see, first of all, what strikes in my mind very continuous these days at this age and stage of my life is that how life is so impermanent, you know and and there are very frequent moments, even today I went through it several times already, that why am I all doing all these things? Not in a pessimistic way, but in an optimistic way, how things are so impermanent. And today is a full moon, and I went to my Guruji's temple, and there was a ritual ceremony going on, and one of our teacher, Choying Rinpoche, passed away. His remaining body is there, and when I just sat in front of it, I feel like, oh my God, that you you take a deep breath, and then you feel like nothing is reliable. You cannot hang on to anything except your own karma. And that the karma that you live, and that's very moment to moment, and it keeps on changing. What can you hang on to? And you want to hang on to certain things with your own idea of being good, meaningful, and so and so and so and so and so things. Yeah, but then you're making up You know, you're creating your own cage, that you think that this cage is good for you to keep you safe and you know, secure and all these things. The idea of what we really have to do, how we should behave, and how we should think about sustainable ways and so on. These are all, you know, there are moments that is very frequently these days coming in my mind, like, oh, so this is it. So I
Thank
don't know
you.
how you explain emptiness or anything like that, but then sometimes you are in that moment, but yet you don't have the right word or right terminology to really make you feel that, you know, ideologically, yes, there are many words and sentences that has been written and explained to talk about emptiness, but yet it is being in that moment is sometimes like you become a mute person experiencing the taste of a honey and not being able to express it in this word. All you can do is just so, yeah.
Thank you so much, Anila. I've already made you speak for an hour. We have some friends here who also have some questions. Is it okay? Can we open the floor? And yeah, that would be, yeah, thank you. So there's a question from Alifia. It would be great if you can ask the question directly to Anila. That would be very good. So please, you can put your video on and unmute yourself. Thank you. Alifia, you're on mute. You're on mute. Alifia, we can't hear you. Just unmute yourself. We were just saying yesterday that the most spoken phrase of the year is "you're on mute." So I think till Alifia fixes her sound, there is a
Okay,
question.
now,
Yeah. Okay, great.
sorry, I wasn't able to unmute.
Hey.
Hello, Anila. It's such a pleasure to get a chance to interact with you. Thank you for making this time, for making it happen. You mentioned about dealing with hypocrisy and social norms. And you mentioned about dealing with self, but also dealing with others. In situations where it's a family member or if it's a loved one who you have to live with, um, while your personal journey is ongoing, how do you suggest we deal with the hypocrisy that we see in them, and we love them, but yet we can see that there is some patriarchal norms that they are embedded in or have fallen into. If you could elaborate a bit more about that.
Well, I can totally understand because I'm living it as well, you know. But then you see, you know, as being in the path of Buddha's teaching, following his path, I think it's up to you how you look at the larger picture of it. You know, see, every action or emotion that we go through has a ripple effect in some way, in a larger scale. So if your intention, your aspiration is carried by love, it will be like a mother's spanking a child, you know. But then if you are able to you know, analyze it with your ability of understand your wisdom, then okay, what are the, you know, consequences that I might, you know, face if I am very straightforward, or I really let out my frustration or disagreement in it. Maybe yes, maybe there are a skillful way of dealing with it. Maybe how you, as there is saying that what you say is not important, but how you say it is. You know, sometimes your child behaves in such a most annoying manner, but yet you don't want to, you know, discourage this child and just or damage his mindset, and you want to still tell him what he did wrong, but you will always handle it with so much love and care, you know. I think that is the attitude what we are supposed to cultivate within ourselves. More than it's about the other, I think it's more about ourselves, how we are able to perceive it in a process that in ourselves, you know. If we keep on being in the mode of rejection all the time, I think that's going to hurt us the most, you know. Sometime accept it as it is, but not to be lived by you, but as 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 by, you know, I feel so sorry my child is behaving in such a manner, but I want to try my best to, you know, show that love and affection that I can from the inner core of my heart, so that maybe somewhere down the line my child will be, you know, able to realize and learn it. So your constant, continuous, compassionate behavior towards your child will have to continue as a mother. And see, the reason why in Buddhism the mother's love has been always emphasized as to explain the quality of a compassionate being is because of that, I think. And finding skillful manner to make the loved one to understand that, or patiently, compassionately, but then don't let this damage you. If you keep on being very harsh and hard, it will damage you. But yet realizing it as being not healthy and not good, but at the same time processing and realizing that out within you through your compassionate and kindness, and then try to, you know, transmit your love to this person with the aspiration to make this child or the loved one to realize it. And depending on how your child's character is, so skillful means are, that's why in Buddhism is very much emphasized on being adopt. So though I'm not, as I explained earlier, I'm not a very good highly intellectual or a scholar to tell you how technically you can explain or deal with it. But as from my own living experience in life, how I dealt with my father, he was always, until his last minute in his life, he was still with his bipolar disease, where he is not able to realize what he's going through is, you know, has been something painful and difficult for us. But then looking at his his effort to keep us alive, his hard work, his kindness towards us to keep us alive, and working hard and providing these safe and secure home to stay in, and the nutritious food to feed us, and being grateful towards all of that, actually helped me to really process all the discomfort and then the pain in such a manner that I was able to develop more of the love towards him, and, you know, care for him in the best manner I could within my capacity. So I think that's how I have been dealing with it. You know, sometimes you can't change the others, but then it's all up to us how we are able to transform the way we perceive it in our life. And I think that that's the most important method that Buddha has tried to teach us. I hope it makes sense.
Thank you so much. Anila, there's a question here from Iona. Iona has her hand raised, so please go ahead and ask. You have to unmute yourself, Iona.
Now do you hear me?
Hello.
Okay, hello from Romania.
Oh.
Annie, I have 2 or 3 questions for you, if you are so kind to answer me. How do you think an Eastern European can work with himself and can deal with his shadows to accumulate positive karma? Is the first question. And the second, how can we find what love?
My
Sorry?
memory. Can we go by one so that I
Okay,
don't
it's okay.
the shadow of your past in order to accumulate merit, right? I
Yes.
think very much how I lived my life. My shadow from the past actually gave me the strength and the determination or the desire, develop the desire to do right, exact the opposite way how I want to live. Few of my philanthropic work is very much inspired by my past shadow or the dark experiences in my life. For instance, like when I was a child, because of the discriminative attitude of the society towards women, actually made me feel very strongly determined to behave however I want to behave. And today, as I stand as a inspiration to many of the young women in our society to believe or develop that belief in themselves that they are capable of taking good care of themselves, you know. So, and then on the other hand, I wanted to study so much, and I didn't get to continue my schooling because of the difficult life that I was experiencing under the domestic violence. So I had to leave school and go to monasteries. But today I'm able to take care of so many young girls in educating them because I know how it feels, and I know that how it would make them feel if I give them the environment and the opportunity to, be in a safe and secure environment to study. So that's the consequence of it. And because I experienced the restriction and then the limitation of this patriarchal society's attitude towards women, how it really limits women's capacity or a potential to perform or to contribute in the society. Just as the answer towards that, I tried my best to live the fullest as I can. I try not to validate my ability and my existence by the validation of others, how they think about me. So if these are the few answers that I can think of, like it's all in your hand, in your perception, how you develop your perception towards any of the experiences in your life. I hope it makes sense.
And Iona, please, if I may request for the moment, just one question per person because we have other people waiting in queue. So that would be very kind of you. Yeah, we can come back. There's a question from Emina. If Emina, you would like to unmute yourself and ask the question. Okay, so maybe Emina is no longer here with us. Okay, if anybody else has, Anila, I wanted to ask you, would you do some chanting with us, or would you do, yeah, please? Thank
Any
you.
particular chanting that you have in mind?
Well, anything actually that you feel like right now.
Okay. Namo Ratnātrāyāya Namo Aryaja Sagara Berosa Vyuharajaya Tathāgataya Arahate Samyek Sambuddha Namo Sarvadathāgate Arahate Samyek Sambuddhebhyo Namo Arya Avaloke Shvaraya Bodhisatoya Mahai Satoya Mahakarunika Tadyahantha Om Darada Dhire Dhire Durudu Itte Onde Tali Tali Prain Sani Pratsai Kusume Kusumari Ini Mili Chitte Anjula Mapanai Soha.
Thank you so much for this live, spontaneous chanting, Anila. Actually, it's my favorite Dharani Darya Avaduteshwaran Dharani. Thank you. And Gorilla here has a question to ask you, maybe our last for the evening.
Thank you so much, Tejal, and thank you for organizing. Thank you, Anila. It's, sorry, I can't, so beautiful to hear you and to hear you sing, and just wonderful. I had a question on balancing, of course, you are an artist. Thinking of you as an artist, you are not just an artist, you are much greater, and you are very close to great gurus and a realized being yourself. So but I'm asking from the point of view of just artists working in samsara, how do we balance working as an artist, striving towards perfection in whatever art form we are doing, and balancing always the 8 mundane concerns. In, you mentioned humility, but you don't just mention it, you embody it. And of course, one can see, there's so much purity and beauty in, your being, but how can we, those of us who are working in samsara, how do we balance? And we have certain aspirations, if only to, like I was saying, to try and strive for perfection. We have also people, we are always interacting with so many people, and, how do you, just anything you would be willing to share. And thank you so much.
Well, I don't really think too much on this kind of thing, you see, being artist as being in the singing field, what I sing is most important, is not about being a singer, it's just a medium of expression, and then the most melodious, and then the truest honest manner that you can perform in is, I think that's how I translate into the perfection. Perfection is not about in measurement, or the size or the shape or anything like that. How purely and how truly and honestly you can express yourself is what I think is the right measurement into your perfection. It's not about actually someone else judging you or validating your perfection. I think if we keep on getting carried away by the idea of being perfect is something what other but validates in you, then you will never be in peace, I feel. So try to, I think I've been trying my best in engaging myself or living myself into is the in the purest form is through my honesty in my aspiration, you know. The purity of my aspiration is very much how much true I can be to myself, you know. And instead of you waiting for others to validate your truth and your honesty is really the worst manner of wasting your time and energy on something that really is not relevant. So I think not being carried away by the validation of other is something that, of course, first of all, it will make you feel very comfortable within you. And then what you really need to judge is yourself, your aspiration. How true are you to yourself with your aspiration, your intention, you know, your behavior, your action? That's how I think we should translate our perfection, rather than, as I explained earlier. So for me, being in a samsara and samsaric activity or not, I think it's about all in the mind as well, you know. Yes, as I said earlier, Tejal and me, we were talking about the controversial image that I carry, but I was always very comfortable within myself, is because even though technically my behavior was such such that was very against the conservative idea of a Buddhist nun, but then at the same time, how do I carry how honest I am to myself in what I believe in? So that's how I lived by it, you know. And then the most important point that I always try to keep in my mind is that, according to what Buddha's teaching is, that you have to be skillful according to the time, place, and people. But most important thing is to be kind and thoughtful. So every action, behavior, thought, or speech that is driven by your purest form of your inner self, with the aspiration to practice kindness, I think that's the most beautiful thing that we can think of, or the perfect thing to really be driven by. Besides that, I really don't think too much on how, as being a nun and the singer and the celebrity and so on. So these are all to, you know, create more confusion in your mind. So I try to keep it simple. Yeah. So the celebrity status sometimes gives you so much admiration and pampering. I rejoice. Okay. And I, with the deep gratitude towards these people who are so kind to me, I rejoice. And whenever I feel like, oh, I'm getting carried away or getting distracted by it, then I think of my Guruji, and then that reestablishes the humility and my ground immediately back. So yeah.
Thank you.
Anila, thank you so much. I mean, you embody this balance between being very radical and outward and manifesting so many things, but also really using all of it to bring so much benefit to so many people. And it's really beautiful to learn about your journey. And you radiate this deep self-confidence. And I think it's really this confidence in your own Buddha nature. And if it's just that we can take as a gift from you to also try to embody that in ourselves, I think that's a beautiful gift.
You here who are trying your best, and I'm also trying my best, and I'm also in the process of learning. You are also in the process of learning. So the practice and to live by it is the most important thing. Sometimes we are stuck with only the idea of being Buddhist. So Buddha's teaching is not about being intellectually you know, well informed or well uh, equipped it, but being able to live by it, I think then the right benefit or the advantage that we are supposed to enjoy is only there, I feel. Also, and I'm in the process of realizing that, and I'm trying my best level best to be in it. Take care.
Thank
So,
you so much, Anila.
I'm sorry about not being able to continue with other questions. Please forgive me. And everybody else, thank you so much. And I really enjoyed talking to you.
And we dedicate the merit for your long life, for an obstacle-free path for you, Anila, and for all your activities to continue to grow. Thank you so much.
For all our activity.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you. Yeah. Good night. Yeah. And thank you also to everybody who came for the meeting. Thank you so much. And we'll make the recording of this session available very soon. Thank you.